Hey there, guys. Welcome back to another podcast. My name is Adam. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm very thankful to be recording this today. I've got some different thoughts to share today, but first, I just want to tell you that one of the things that I focus on in my business and ministry, because I find that they are the same, they go hand in hand, is that we're working to help people who are believers and who are in the nonprofit space, maybe working in a church or working for a nonprofit, people who give of their lives to help other people, either through Christian work or through nonprofit charity work. My goal is to try to help those people find their health, encourage them in their health, so that they can continue to do what they feel like God's called them to do. At the end of the day, if you are not doing what you are supposed to be doing, number one, then life is just off track and it's not going to work very well. And then two, if you're not taking care, if you are doing the thing you're supposed to be doing, but you're not taking care of the vessel that God gave you in order to do those things physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, do those things, then in my opinion, you are neglecting a large portion of what God has granted you in order to fulfill his call on your life, right? At the end of the day, I do believe that in the church we have made call and purpose. We've romanticized it way too much, so much so that people are living their lives day to day and wondering when they're going to get into their calling. Usually, the life you're living day to day is the calling, right? Like you're called to be a mom or a dad, you're called to be a brother, a sister, a son, a daughter. You're doing those things. And then when you're at work, you're being a person, you're being a child of God, you're being a representative of Christ. You know what I mean? Like you're doing the things you're called to do. But sometimes um, there are a handful of people who are particularly destined or determined to be in a very specific space that's like maybe in the church or in the nonprofit space where there's a lot of sacrifice that goes into that. And um, many times people will sacrifice their health on the altar of charity work or ministry. And my goal is to help people not to do that because we need you around. We need you to be healthy and strong and vibrant and able to hear the Lord's voice so you can do the things you need to do. So I've been reading recently and I moved recently, so that's why the background looks different. I'm trying to find a new spot to record. I don't have a studio. I'm not that fancy. It's just me and my computer and a phone and a pair of earbuds because I forgot the cable when I moved, forgot the cable for my microphone, so I have to order a new one. So, we're winging it here. So bear with us. Um, but I was reading in Matthew. I have a chronological Bible, a Bible that's written chronologically. It's very good. It's very good if you want to study a bit more, learn a little bit more. If you're looking for just verses that speak to you in the moment, it's a much more difficult Bible to use because nothing's really in the order you're used to seeing it in. But I was reading in the chronological Bible and I'm going through the life of Jesus and the teachings of Jesus, and I got to his temptation, right? And this is something that I have been kind of chewing on as of late, and I would like to share it with you. I'm just going to kind of share it with you as it came to me. And we're going to study the Bible a little bit. We're going to look at the Bible a little bit. So I would love for you to just bear with me. This may be a longer video than normal or audio than normal, but great to listen to and just to think about. Okay. So if we're looking in Matthew chapter 4, and I'm reading out of the Amplified right now, I believe it's the Amplified. Let me see. Yeah, Amplified. Um, And we're looking at chapter 4, and this is where it started. The thought started with me, and some other people I have followed have mentioned these things, and it started me chewing. So if you look at Matthew chapter 4, verse 1, it says, Then Jesus was led by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. Now, to be honest with you, most of us when we get into the wilderness and we're being tempted, we're like, I'm being attacked by the devil. Lord, deliver me. But it see here that maybe there are times when the Holy Spirit leads you into seasons that are more difficult in order to prove your faith, maybe deepen your roots in Him. Remember, He's never going to place a challenge in front of you that He has not already either gifted you to get through or has made a way out for you, according to Corinthians. So he said, after he had gone without food for 40 days and 40 nights, that's a long time, by the way. Okay. Very few people I know have done a 40-day fast. Okay. Uh, he became hungry. That's an understatement. The Bible is really known for understatement because after 40 days, you're not hungry. You ravenous. You question life choices. And it says, the tempter, who is Satan, came and said to him, if you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread. Okay, first temptation is the temptation of provision. The next one will be the one of protection. He says, uh, he takes him up. He takes him up to the temple, and he says, throw yourself down because God has commanded His angels concerning you that you would not strike your foot against a stone. He would protect you. Okay, so he's tempting him to basically tempt God into protecting him. And then the third temptation is one of power and significance. Okay, where he says, again, the devil took him up to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and the glory, splendor, magnificence, and excellence of them. Now think about that. That had to be, if he showed him all of them, this had to be some type of like CGI immersive thing. So which is pretty dope. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. If you're able to see that kind of stuff, pretty awesome. Or maybe he's just in the spirit and he can see it. I don't know, but the imagery there is really cool to me. Um, and he said to him, all these things I will give you if you fall down and worship me. I think we can fairly say that given the way that we've seen celebrity, music, Hollywood, now the Olympics, we've seen these people with this influence and all of this power and this ability to say and do whatever they want to do, and they're worshiping the devil. It's safe to say that this temptation, he delivers on a lot. Okay. If you really think about it, the term Hollywood is based off of, or could be linked back to, the old Druid witchcraft ceremonies where a wand was always made from holly, right? So the wand they used to cast spells and do witchcraft was made from the holly tree. It was Hollywood. That was the wand that created spells. Okay, so we know that much of the entertainment system, much of the world that we see that is projected into our lives, we get to see here we go, the splendor, the magnificence, and the excellence of it all. It's all streamed into us. It's safe to say that he delivers on this temptation. So we have three temptations here. We have one that's of provision, two that's of protection, and three that's of power and significance. I want to focus on the first one today because it's more relevant to the topic of my content, which is health and faith and fitness. So if you notice, the first temptation is one of food. It's hunger. He was hungry. He tempted him with food. Okay. And the priority there, if we read it, he says, it is written forever and forever remains written. That's why I like the Amplified. Excuse me. Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I'll cut that out. The Amplified's great because it always adds these little details that I love. It is written and forever remains written. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes out of the mouth of God. I'm chewing on this because this temptation is one of food. It's one of providing for my desire. It's providing for my need. So he's feeling a certain way. He's feeling a certain amount of discomfort in a sense. He's feeling some natural push towards eating, towards food. He's looking for food in a natural way to solve a very particular problem, which is I'm hungry, I feel weak, or for some of us, it's emotional, like it's emotionally using food to do something that we need. We're feeling something, and this thing will assuage that pain or that discomfort I have. And this temptation is common. Okay. It's being used today. Okay. What is the first sin? What was the first temptation? Okay. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 1, or not Genesis 1, but we're going to look at Genesis 3, 1 through 6. Let's go through our Bible. All right. The first temptation was one of food. All right. Give me a second. I'm finding it in my Bible. We're looking at verse 1 through 6. Let's look here. 1 through 6. The serpent, now the serpent was more crafty than any of the wild animals the Lord had made. He said to the woman, did God really say you must not eat of any tree of the garden? From any tree in the garden. The woman said to the serpent, we may eat from the trees in the garden, but God did say, you must not eat the fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it or you will die. You will certainly not die, the serpent says to the woman, for God knows when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened and you will be like him, knowing good and evil. When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye, and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and ate it, and then she gave it to her husband who was with her. Now, there's a lot here in these scriptures, okay? Like, first of all, what the heck was Adam doing the whole time while his wife is over here talking to the snake? Okay. Bro man was just not leading well. I mean, she was obviously, I mean, however you want to put it, she was obviously making the decisions. Okay. So my question is, there's a few things here. What was Adam doing? Two, why was Eve tempted to eat the one thing she was not supposed to eat? And then why are we still falling for this same temptation? That the temptation of food, the thing that I do not need to eat, they didn't need it. They didn't need the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Obviously, I don't know why, obviously, um, God had a plan this whole time, which is why he even put it in the garden. But the first temptation was one of food. The first temptation was one of eating that thing that we know we shouldn't be eating. And then dealing with the consequences of it and suffering the consequences of eating this thing I should not be eating. Many of us are doing that right now. We're eating that thing we shouldn't be eating. We're using food in a way that it should not be used. Food in this way was like food in and of itself is not used to gain wisdom, right? It's not. It's supposed to be used as fuel and sustenance, and it's pleasurable. But there's something about our human nature that's always wants the thing we know we shouldn't have. This is many times while we drink, knowing we shouldn't drink alcohol, because it serves no purpose other than to make us feel a little bit better for a short amount of time. And then it has a myriad of side effects, not to mention being drunk as one of them, but also, it lowers hormonal levels, it increases inflammation, it can increase fatty liver disease, it can do a lot. Okay. It is technically a toxin, though I'm not going to bash it because sometimes, having a glass of wine with your friends is great. But many of us are using food to gain something that food was not meant or designed to gain us. We're using it to gain emotional stability. We're using it to deal with our stress. We're using it to deal with our discomfort, or we're using it to make it, we think of food as a friend. And when we're lonely, we eat. When we're sad, we eat. When we're happy, we eat, right? It's this constant companion. And we're using food. This first temptation is one of food, of using food the wrong way. And we're using it, and it's killing us. It's killing billions of people a year. Like, not a year. It's killing billions of people around the world. And every year, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people die from food-related diseases, many times lifestyle diseases. Just in the United States alone, over 1 million people die from lifestyle-related diseases, which are directly related to how we sleep, how we eat, and how we move. Okay. And I think sleep and food can be somewhat modulated. Exercise is the one that probably can help cover a multitude of sins, but diet in and of itself is killing millions of people every year. And sometimes it's not the person's fault. I would never say this. Let me take that back. I should not say that it's not someone's fault. You're always in charge of what you do. You always have responsibility over what you can say, what you don't say, what you eat, what you don't eat. Okay, the things that come in and things that go in. All right. So you always have say over those things. But this temptation, we're using it the wrong way. Okay, we're allowing this temptation to continue to reap destruction in our lives. And I believe that there's a time when we need to just give this over to the Lord and start dealing with it. There's another passage, if we look, the Israelites in Exodus 16:2-3, they were grumbling against the Lord, or against Moses and the Lord, about food in the desert. The Israelites complained about the lack of food in the desert, longing for the food they had in Egypt, which tested their faith and obedience to God. It says, in the desert, the whole community grumbled against Aaron and Moses. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. I mean, think about how ridiculous these statements are. If only God had killed us in Egypt, we wouldn't have to deal with being hungry. Seriously, think about it. Think about what a stronghold food has in our lives, that these people walked through the Red Sea. They saw all the plagues in Egypt, and they were on this miraculous journey, and God's providing food every day with manna. And all they can think about is how their tummies are grumbling, and that stomach, that grumbling of the stomach, has shifted them away from seeing who God is and what He's done in their life to now they're just like, I just wish He'd have killed me so I wouldn't have to eat. I wouldn't have to go without food for a little bit or eat whatever is being provided. Think about how strong our stomachs are in this sense, in this example. It's ridiculous. They said, there we sat around pots of meat and ate all the foods we wanted. You were slaves. You were slaves. All the meat you wanted? I don't think. But you have brought us into this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. That's what they said. So think about this. This temptation of food, this desire to fulfill this appetite, in this sense, is giving them amnesia over what God has done and what He's promised. This is so strong if you think about it. It's such a strong temptation and a strong hold in our lives. In Numbers chapter 11, verse 4 and 6, the Israelites again complained about their diet in the wilderness, desiring meat instead of the manna God provided. In Proverbs chapter 23, 20-21, These verses provide wisdom against overindulgence in food and drink, highlighting the negative consequences. Philippians 3:18 through 19. Paul warns against those whose lives are driven by their appetites and earthly desires rather than focus on God. 1 Corinthians 10 and 7. Paul cautions the Corinthians against idolatry, using the example of the Israelites who engaged in pagan revelry that included eating and drinking in these, holidays. He says, do not be idolaters, as some of them were, as it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and get up and indulge in revelry. And then we know Daniel chapter 1, verse 8 through 16, we see a stark difference between the desires and appetites of the king of Babylon and what Daniel and his friends were trying to do in order to serve the Lord. Okay, so we see that this overconsumption, according to Philippians, this being ruled by our appetites is a real thing when it comes to us as believers. And it is a sin, it is a temptation that has been killing us for generations and is even now killing us at more alarming rates. I realize like our food system, especially in the United States, has been hijacked and poisoned to a huge extent. They're making it more and more difficult to buy real food, more and more difficult for farmers to create food that is not over chemicalized and sprayed. They're through gaslighting and sheer misinformation, talking about how beef is a huge culprit for climate change, even though CO2 is literally the molecule of life for all plants on the planet. Somehow everything is going to die if there's too much CO2. Actually, more CO2 creates more greening in a sense. So we actually create a larger cycle of oxygen and CO2 uptake, right? So CO2, without it, the planet dies. It's kind of the same stupidity when it comes to cholesterol. Cholesterol is going to kill you. Well, without cholesterol, you absolutely die. And we know that children who don't get cholesterol in their diets through breast milk grow up with smaller brains, have harder times focusing, harder times doing complicated tasks when they get older. So cholesterol in the form of saturated fat from breast milk and food is absolutely essential to human life and flourishing. So the same lie is being placed, right? So I realize like our system is messed up, but it doesn't mean that we have to fall for it. And it doesn't mean that as believers, we should throw up our hands and let go of the promise of health and thriving in our bodies, in our life. Okay, so just because the system is rigged doesn't mean you don't fight the system in a sense. And just because this temptation towards sin is considered normal and people giving into it, and like nobody says anything when you go and you eat McDonald's every day and you order pizza for lunch and you are 50 pounds overweight and you feel terrible and look equally terrible. Nobody says anything. But as soon as you start dieting and as soon as you start eating like real food, like if I eat steak and eggs and with butter on it, which are all natural foods, nobody's processed those things. They come from nature. Our bodies are uniquely designed to eat them and absorb them. And they come with tons of vitamins and minerals, A, D, K2, K2, which is interesting because it specifically helps to keep calcium where it's supposed to go, like in your bones, your teeth, things like that, not into your heart. Okay. You go get a CAC, a coronary calcification score. How much calcification do you have in there? Calcification, calcium. Okay. K2 which you get almost exclusively from animal products and saturated fat with fat soluble vitamins, K2 helps keep the calcium where it's supposed to be, and it's not in your arteries. So it's the opposite of what we're being told. So we have, if I eat like the normal American, nobody says anything. Nobody says a word. But as soon as I post a picture of me eating 6 eggs, people are like, oh, your arteries, blah, oh, this, that. All of a sudden, everybody's a health expert and everybody's worried about my health, you know? So we need to realize that just because this sin and giving into this sin is normal doesn't mean it's acceptable. And I'm going to be honest with you. I personally believe that if you know to eat a specific way and you willingly don't, and you know it's detrimental to you, I think that borders on sin. I think it borders on sin because you're actively sabotaging what God has done for you and is wanting to do in your life. Now, look, you don't have control over everything. People are going to get sick. I know, you know, you're going to kick your heels up from time to time and go have a good time. Having a good time is different than eating a certain way all the time. And eating in such a way as you know that you are sabotaging your health, right? Like if I go right now and have pizza and even pizza and beer, yes, that very short amount of time is not super healthy. Okay. But the vast majority of my life, I spend eating in such a way as to keep myself healthy, strong, lean, and mobile as much as I can. I'm in my late 40s now, and I'm trying really hard to make the second half of my life more productive than the first because I know more, I've experienced more, cried a lot more. So let me just say, this food temptation is a real thing. And I know that it's a real struggle for many of us. And it's not a struggle simply because of the food being tasty. It's a struggle because we see a lack of value in our own health and we see a lack of value in who we are called to be. Therefore, who gives a crap? Just go eat the stuff. You're gonna be fat anyway. Like it's kind of like I heard a guy say, barely had a job, but he still went and bought a car. And I'm like, dude, why did you just get into $30,000 of debt? This is a long time ago. And he's like, well, debt's just one of those things you're always gonna have. If you look at it that way, then being fat is just always one of those things you're gonna have. Being unhealthy is just one of those things you're always gonna have. So you might as well just go ahead and get what you want. That's not true. That is a lie. That's like saying being in bondage is just one of those things you're always going to have. That's a lie. You do not have to be in bondage. You do not have to give into this temptation all the time. If you are constantly giving into this temptation, I think you need to do some work on internally between you and the Lord, and then maybe with a counselor on finding your true value and trying to figure out why this is such a stronghold for you. I did a great interview with Mary Roberts. She talks about food addiction. You can go back in my podcast and look for that one. I think we can try to put it in the show notes. She talks about food addiction quite a bit. There's a lot of other people who talk about it as well. Food addiction is a real thing, but also not seeing value in yourself, not seeing value in who God's called you to be is a real issue. So this temptation will constantly be an issue for you if who you are is in question and who you want to be and who God's called you to be is in question. This is not an issue for me anymore because I know this is the path I'm supposed to be on. From time to time, like I just moved, of course, we were eating like crazy. I hardly ever eat fast food, but you're driving a moving truck for 12 hours a day for 3 days in a row. At some point, you're just going to just eat whatever is there just to keep going. So yeah, of course we have issues there. And then from time to time, we have friends over, we kick it up and we have cake or whatever. But the vast majority of your lifestyle should be one that provides health, not provides disease. Okay. So let me encourage you. This temptation has been around a long time. It's not new. If you're falling for it, ask God to forgive you. Ask for grace, ask for mercy. He wants to help you. And my content and my podcasts and other emails that we put out, go to my website. You can sign up for my email, my emails that come once or twice a week to help encourage you. Follow me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm always putting out something. I put out a post every day at least, and then and every one of them's trying to be encouraging. But I just want you to know God has a plan for your life and He needs you around. Okay, so this temptation is real. This situation is real. The devil's been using this temptation to food from the beginning. So if you're falling for it, you're in good company. We've all fallen for it. But if you're continuing to fall for it, once you know that this is a trap from the enemy to end your ministry early, pastor, to end your influence over your children early, mother and father. That's what this is. And it's to enslave your children to health problems, the medical system, who are just, we think about it, much of what the medical system has become, it's become a business. It's no longer about healing patients. And this is not me trying to get into conspiracy or rants. You just got to watch the incentives, right? If all they can do is prescribe medication, you don't have a shortage of Lipitor in your body. You don't have a shortage of Ativan. You don't have a shortage of Adderall. You have a nutritional issue and a developmental issue, usually. Nutritional shortage, which creates a developmental issue. So something's not working correct, creates a systemic problem. So if the medical system, who's supposed to heal you, sorry, I have something on my mind. All they can do is give you advice on taking this medication, which you have to take now for the rest of your life. That's not healing. They're selling you a product. That's product sales, right? Hey, you've got a need. We can meet that need. Here, boom, subscription for the rest of your life. Done. Hey, don't you feel better? Oh, well, that's not helping. Hey, we got another one. You add that on top. Boom, boom, boom. It's a giant screen. Now, does it help? Of course, it can help in a lot of ways. But not everybody needs to be on 2 or 3 medications or more. So everybody needs to be taking care of their health and working on their faith and their fitness together. Okay. So let me encourage you today that from Adam Bro Fitness, from me personally, I love you. We love you. We appreciate you. And we're thankful for you. This temptation is real. Food temptation is a real thing, and it's been killing humans and getting humans in trouble with their relationship with God for a long time. So maybe let's address it in that sense. Let's address it from a spiritual point of view as well, and not just a willpower point of view where I need to work harder to do this. Maybe you need more grace. Maybe you need more Holy Spirit insight into why you're eating those things. Maybe you need pastor's help, or if you are a pastor, maybe you need a friend or a colleague's help. I speak with pastors all the time and help them just to see, hey, man, you're falling into this pattern. Like, this is the pattern. So maybe let's tackle this from a spiritual point of view and not just a you try harder point of view. Okay. So, hey, check us out on Instagram. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube. If you follow me on Instagram, if you type in any comment on any post in Instagram, you type FAF. That's Faith and Fitness. You'll get a free copy of my Faith and Fitness starter pack. It's got lessons, got video lessons on the basics of diet, nutrition, health. I've got a free workout in there for people who want to get stronger. I've got a diet, like nutritional guide in there that's completely free. I've had a lot of good reviews from other people, and they're saying it's been very helpful. So please just check us out. We appreciate you. Also, just have a great day. Continue to work on your faith and fitness, and we'll talk soon.
Hey there, guys. I want to take a quick second to highlight a partner that we've been working with lately, Upgraded Formulas. You can see them at upgradedformulas.com. I have personally been taking their Upgraded T formula to support natural testosterone production. I've noticed it after a few months. I've noticed I've had a bit more mental clarity. My rest is a little better, and I'm recovering a bit better from my workouts, which was actually surprising. So I'm able to exercise just a bit more. I love to exercise, so that's a bonus for me. Women can also take this because healthy testosterone levels in women help with fat loss, mental clarity, muscle gain, things like that. And also, the estrogen and testosterone go together hand in hand. If you support one, the other does pretty well as well. So definitely check them out. Also, they do something really great. I want to highlight a hair mineral analysis where you send them a little chunk of your hair and they will let you know if you're deficient in anything or if you have too much of something like heavy metals in your system. So what this does is this is a great thing to help give you data on your health so that you can make decisions. None of this is a miracle cure. All of it is just information to help you make better decisions around your health and supplementation. All right, so really check them out. They're doing some really great quality. They're seeing some huge results, and I believe they're going to have some clinical studies coming out pretty soon. So check them out, upgradedformulas.com. Use the code ADAM10 to get a 10% discount today.